the cat as a medium so that it can affect the world around it and help the mage in his or her work. Even fewer people know that familiars are often created, and that witches are not the only people that create entities similar to familiars. Since ancient times, the belief and use of entities, such as familiars, have been widespread. Often definition of entity: 11 people would house these entities in things other than cats, such as bottles, gems, statues, etc. By taking specific thoughts and emotions and identifying them with things like names, symbolic attributes, etc., we are better able to work with them in a conscious manner. Therefore, it is very important that we wisely choose our thoughts and the way that we understand them. If we do not understand our thoughts and emotions and try to use them for our own benefit, the results can, and more often than not, will be counterproductive. Some people question the reality of entities created by our thoughts and emotions. Their understanding is that if we have the ability to create something with our mind, it therefore must be imaginary. This is, however, not the case. When someone studies magic long enough, they will come to the understanding that what is thought of as self and not self is merely an illusion. We only have company in life due to the illusion of being separated. Everything that we experience, perceive, or understand in any way has been created within our own minds. The world as we understand it was created by us through our experiences. The world that we live in is only that of ourselves. Only we have the ability to change the things in our world, and our mind gives us the ability to do just that. Page 8. Every day we, as evolving humans, learn something new. When we are presented YTHANEW situation, we do our best to relate to this experience YTH the knowledge that we already have. As TEMA goes on, we MAY find that our original thoughts and theories MAY have been incorrect and need to be changed a bit. We do not discard the experience altogether as though it never happened. WHAT we do is note what we have learned and adjust our understanding accordingly. Everything in the world is we KNOW. It has been constructed by the limitations of OUROWN minds at the TEMA DT we experienced it. Thereafter, we merely build upon our OWN thought constructions for WHAT we perceive to be real, or the truth. Once you understand how to change YOUR perceptions, there is no thing in this world that your mind cannot change. In relation to entities, this simply means that we may not know exactly what entities are, but we KNOW DT they exist. As we learn more about them rough our interaction and practice of working WITH them, we adapt WHAT we have learned to fit into our new understandings or our experiences. It is important to not discard the validity of any type of entity just because we do not understand it or have evidence supporting it. Rather, we must accept OUR experiences and understand that we are only limited by OUR experiences. The more we learn about a subject, in this case entities, the more they come into our realm of understanding, MUCH, like the American continents did for Europeans were UNAWARE of their existence. You create entities and can accordingly determine WHAT such entities will do for you. You don't use the perception of belief YTH entities, but instead use the perception of attributes YTH your entity. To put it simply, you choose to perceive DT an entity has specific talents about it. DT will help in your operations. Those talents are attributes. Definition of entity 13 DT you have placed upon the entity. A thing to understand about entities is DT they have different levels of intelligence. This intelligence depends on the type of entity. One way of understanding entities is DT they are formed from the collective unconscious. When we specifically identify and give a certain type of energy HUMAN attributes, we are separating the energy from the collective unconscious and create a new being. This new being is still interconnected WITH the collective unconscious, as we all are, but it is a distinct energy being. Entities have the ability to draw on the collective unconsciousness WHEN they are instructed to do so. By doing this, entities are able to learn new skills and gain information. This ability also allows for them to affect the collective unconsciousness in ways DT will allow for their tasks to be accomplished. If entities are formed from thoughts and emotions, WHAT were they before they were formed? There are many different theories and understandings on this topic. Most of the theories seem to make a reference to a great mass of energy. Some often refer to this mass as the creative life force. This energy, or life force, exists in all things and expands beyond human understanding. When a human decides to give a party of this great energy mass a form, it establishes this small party of energy as a new spiritual being. This new spiritual being resides on a plane of existence that some magical practitioners refer to as the astral plane. The process is similar to when parents conceive a child. They take a party of the great creative life force and give it a form. This new form exists on both the astral and physical planes. An identity is established and furthers the creation of this being. The original energy from the creative life force has not been separated from the rest, but it has been provided with an astral and physical container in which it can reside. Page 9. One way to look at it is to think of the thought emotion, or both, as the equivalent to the male's semen. The creative life force is thought to be the female's egg. When the TWO join, they form a being that combines the genetic code of both parts. This genetic code is the driving force and guide by which the entity shall live its life. This is similar to the process of entity creation. You create an astral container for the great creative life force on the astral world. Even though a portion of the creative life force has been separated, it is still interconnected with the greater whole of the creative life force. Entity USES. The creation of magical entities can be a very rewarding form of magical working. One thing that people tend to state over and over again is the level of control over the magical process that creating entities provides. This often leads to more favorable results in their workings and more workings in general. Creating magical entities can be as easy or as hard as you would like it to be. Even the least amount of preparation, YOU can produce a results-focused entity. Of course, the more that you put into your entity, the better your chances are of gaining the results that you desire. Because of the flexibility inherent in their creation, magical entities can be custom designed to a very specific goal. With some magical workings, you are limited to the results produced. With an entity created specifically for your goal, you have better likelihood of the goal manifesting in the manner that you wish. Also, you have a better expectation of the results, whereas other generic magical workings, the results gained may be close to what you had hoped for, but still not exactly as you had wanted or needed. With some types of magical workings, like sigils for example, you receive point A to point B type of results. In other words, there is little room for adding additional parameters into the magical working once it has been enacted. Magical entities, on the other hand, you have the ability to redirect the entity's focus while the entity is actively working to produce your desired magical results. Page 10. Entity uses. After creating the entity, little of your OWN energy is required to produce the results desired. Because of this, you are able to devote your and energy to other things as you wish. The entity will go off and complete the task that has been assigned to it. The more energy that you direct toward your entity, depending on the work at hand, the better your results tend to be. Expanding on the dynamic possibilities of entities, a magical entity can be used for several magical tasks at the same time. For example, an entity that has the task of creating wealth can be used to make a company prosperous. At the same time, the entity can look after a person's personal assets. Often, general skilled entities can be used over and over for magical workings that are of similar basis. An example of this would be the creation of an entity that is governed by the realm of happiness. This entity could be used any time that a feeling of happiness was needed. Magical entities can be created to be astral messengers. These messengers can go out and collect bits of information that is of interest to the creator. The entities then can report back to the creator, relaying all of the information that was gathered. This type of entity use can be beneficial in times when someone needs to gather important information when under normal means it would be impossible, such as in making crucial business decisions. An entity can be created to help you learn a specific skill. Often people will create WHAT or often KNOWN as teacher entities. These teacher entities are created WITH all of the knowledge of a particular skill or area of interest. The creator will then go to the entity to have it help teach the creator the desired skill or knowledge. Teacher entities are like having your very OWN wise mentor at your disposal. These types of entities can be very beneficial when trying to learn any W and complicated subjects. Entity uses 17 for some people. It is easier to use entities to bring on magical results. One of the reasons for this is because when using other forms of magical workings, it may be difficult to KNOWHOW the desired event will manifest. This often leads to failed, half-realized workings, or workings to T or no T performed. When working WITH entities, the mage is able to relate to a being doing the working. For example, in protection workings, it is easier for most people to envision a big bloodthirsty beast ready to devour any and all that wish to cause the creator harm, rather trying to envision a glowing light of energy keeping wrongdoers at bay. Page 11. Entity uses in some magical philosophies, magi are trained to never perform magic unless a real and needed result is desired. They are often taught to never use their magic on simple whims just to see if their magic works. This limited tion often leads to poorly trained magi, as they are rarely able to practice what it is that they have learned. When the time comes to try to manifest something, they are often rusty or undereducated in certain magical areas. When they try to put their skills to work, they often meet with poor results. Some magi create magical entities solely as means to hone their magical abilities. By creating a magical entity, they are putting many learned skills to work while manifesting a real and needed result. The real and needed result is the creation of something that will allow them to expand their magical abilities. Often these entities are dissolved soon after creation, as they serve no purposes other than to increase the mage's magical aptitude. Some entities, however, are kept as a magical companion, much like a witch's familiar. Magical entities can be used for finding rare books, for aiding in a job search, for helping sales of a product, for irritating an enemy, for protecting a house, etc. We have heard of magical entities who help compress and expand time, assist in speedy passage through rush hour, and to ensure a business receives a payment for a product. Magical entities are quite versatile. Creating magical entities can provide a lot of fun and excitement. The entity that you create is only limited by your imagination. For some, the simple knowledge that they are in control of an entity that they created can be the impetus for using this method of magical working. Other people like knowing that they can be as creative as they wish to be. This is one form of magical working that can be as exciting as the results that it produces. Attuning your energy. The first step to working with entities is learning to attune your energy to work with an entity. What that means is that you should have some degree of control over your own energy. If you do not, working with an entity, let alone creating one, may be difficult. What are some things that you can do to improve your connection with entities? Meditate. Meditation is a tool that will allow you to gain control of your thoughts and actions. With proper control, anything is possible and accurate results can be achieved. It is important to be clear in your mind what exactly it is that you want for your magical working. Meditation will help you to define your goals and desires. It will also allow you to see the situation from different angles. This will often reveal hidden situations that may lend themselves to helping achieve your goals. Page 12. Attuning your energy. If you do not have a regular meditation routine, it is recommended that you start one as soon as possible. There are many books out on the subject. If you look in your local phone directory, you may be able to find local community classes that teach meditation. You may even want to join a Tai Chi class if it is offered in your area. Tai Chi is a Chinese form of mobbing meditation. This serves you twofold, as you gain the benefits of meditation as well as keeping your body fit and in tune with your spiritual growth. Exercise. Regular exercise is an important factor in overall health. Exercise not only will keep you in good physical shape but also reduces stress, alleviates depression, and improves the quality of your sleep. You don't have to run out and get a membership at a gym. Try spending an hour doing martial arts, yoga, or any other type of exercise such as walking, dancing, swimming, or even inline skating. Exercise can aid you in daily attunement to your personal energy as well as the energies you work with. Physical exercise causes you to sweat, which helps clean some of the toxins out of your body. This will help your energy flow throughout your body better. Attuning your energy 21 diet. A good diet and perhaps even a good multivitamin can make a big difference in your energy as well. There is no one true diet that everyone should follow. However, try to eat balanced meals with moderate portions. More small meals a day are sometimes better than 3 large meals a day. Buy or grow organic whenever you can and try to eat food that is minimally processed. Raw fruits and vegetables are more nutritious than when cooked. If you must cook them, steaming is preferred. If you're a meat eater, organic meat and poultry or wild game is best. If you choose a vegetarian or vegan diet, make sure you get the protein and iron you need through nuts, seeds, tofu, etc. Drink lots of pure water. Cut back on caffeine, sugar, artificial colors and flavors, and preservatives. Changing your eating habits can be very difficult. You don't have to do it all at once. Pick 1 or 2 of your unhealthy eating habits and replace them with new, healthy habits. Getting enough sleep is very important for health and energy. With only a few exceptions, the average adult needs between 7 and 8 hours of sleep within each 24-hour period to be adequately alert for 16 to 17 hours. Without the proper amount of sleep, the body cannot and will not function to its fullest potential. If you have trouble sleeping, try taking a hot bath before you go to bed. Lavender and chamomile are soothing scents. Try spraying your sheets and pillow with water and a combination of lavender and chamomile essential oils. Don't drink caffeinated beverages or eat sugary foods before going to bed. Page 13. Attuning your energy. Visualization. Another tool in your toolbox is the art of creative visualization. Creative visualization will help you align the physical, mental, and spiritual minds to act together to achieve a desired result. It also allows for you to gain insight and information that was once hidden. The type of information that you may receive may come in the form of a scent, an image in the mind's eye, a sense of coolness or warmth, etc. Creative visualization is often thought of as a balancing act between meditation and hypnosis. This is because creative visualization has the controlled state of awareness that meditation affords. At the same time, it has the potential programming power that hypnosis provides. Self-help clinics and various magical groups usually teach creative visualization. There are books that teach and explain the subject, but some individuals find it hard to practice creative visualization through the guidance of a book. Therefore, it is recommended that you seek out a magical group, self-help group, or clinic that offers creative visualization courses. You may even want to supplement your practices and studies with some hypnosis training. Experiencing energy signatures. Each person and entity has their own energy signature. By learning to recognize your energy signature from someone else's, you become more attuned to the energy around you. There are many exercises that you can do to help you with this. One that is easy is making note of some of your friends' energy signatures or how they feel to you when they are around you. When someone comes into a room where your back is to them, try and figure out who it is by their energy signature before turning around to see who attuning your energy 23 it is. Of course, if you have friends that are magi, then you can structure this a bit more. Another way to attune yourself to someone's energy signature is to stand facing each other with your palms 1 to 2 inches apart from each other. Feel each other's energy and then decide who will be the leader. Now, the leader will move their hands around in circles, figure eights, or whatever patterns they wish. The follower will follow their energy. Once you get used to this with your eyes open, both leader and follower should close their eyes and continue to follow the energy signature of their partner. Start slow at first, then speed things up, or start with your hands close together and then work them farther apart. Become more creative. Expanding your creativity is extremely helpful when working with any type of magic. When it comes to creating entities, however, creativity should be given the highest priority of development. Thinking in a creative manner will allow you to solve a problem with at least 10 different solutions, with most of them being highly feasible. When you think creatively, you realize that not only is anything possible, but that there may be several different ways to achieve success. Creative thinking allows you to see situations in a multidimensional aspect. This will allow you to find the fastest way to achieve results in a way that will make everyone involved satisfied with the outcome. With a little bit of creative thinking, you may find solutions to your problems without the use of any magical workings. When magic is required, however, your creative thinking skills will allow you to develop the best laid out plan of magical attack, which will cover almost every area that needs to be addressed to assure a successful outcome for everyone and everything involved. Page 14. A method to start sharpening your creative thinking skills is to come up with 10 solutions to every problem that you are faced with. The next time that you have an issue that needs to be resolved, write down on a piece of paper at least 10 different possible ways to resolve the solution. You may at first get 1 or 2 with no problem, but when it comes to more than 2, you may find it difficult. If you do find it hard, that's okay, just keep thinking. Even if the idea sounds dumb or far-fetched, write it down. If you do this every time you have a situation to resolve, you will find that your ideas will become sharper and more focused than when you started this technique. The more that you use this creative thinking method, the more effective solutions you will come up with. You will come to notice that your thought process has changed and that you are starting to see opportunities where there were none before. Respect the entities you work with. When you start working with entities of any type, always show the utmost respect for them. This is one thing that most people overlook when working with entities, man-made or pre-existing. Many, either because of ill instruction or ignorance, try to dictate and control the entities through threats and intimidation. This is the surest way to minimize the effectiveness of your magical workings. To maximize your magical workings, you should treat the entity as though it is a comrade or friend. When you work in this manner, the entity is more responsive to your wishes and will work harder to manifest your desires. It is similar to working with humans. The more you respect them and the better you treat them, the more that they will do for you. Be aware that with any entity, created or not, trust goes both ways. You have to fulfill your end of the bar, attuning your energy 25 gain even as it fulfills its end. If you don't, the repercussions are less than desirable. It's better to pay your dues when it is time than to let them grow beyond the means of payment. Your strength as a person and as a mage can sometimes be measured by how honorably you've conducted your affairs. Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. Like humans, some entities will not work any harder for you no matter how you treat them. In these instances, it is best to use your judgment as to whether you wish to continue to work with such an entity. After all, the entity was created by you to fulfill your desires, and if an entity shows any signs of not wishing to accomplish those goals, it is up to you to decide on what you wish to do about it. Magic, in any form, requires energy to work. Only by actually doing magic on a daily basis, working with energy every day, and learning to control energy, will your spiritual power grow stronger. You will become capable of using magic in a wide variety of ways, which includes creating and working with entities. Page 15. Important precautions when working with entities. It is important to be aware of the consequences of this type of magical working. Just like other forms of magical workings, using entities comes with both responsibilities and cautions. This section is not here to tell you what you should or should not do. It is here to make you aware of the things that you may encounter while working with entities, and things to think about when creating them. This section serves as a guide for you to fully think out what it is that you plan to do with your entity. Laws of cause and effect. In some religious and spiritual circles, the law of return is a widely held and accepted doctrine. This law dictates that whatever action is done by you, you shall receive back. Therefore, if you were to do good one day, you shall receive something good in return, and conversely, if you do something bad, you shall receive something bad. In Wicca, they have something similar to the law of return. They call this the threefold law. They understand this law to mean that whatever you do, good or bad, returns to you with 3 times the strength. There are differing views as to how and when you receive the threefold effect, but nonetheless, most Wiccans agree that such an effect occurs. In some New Age groups, the law of return is referred to as karma, the force generated by a person's actions to perpetuate transmigration, and in its ethical. Page 16. Important precautions. Consequences to determine the nature of the person's next existence. Some even understand karma to act as a cosmic score of fate. In other words, if Johnny does good, he will receive X amount of good karma points, whereas if Sally does something bad, she will receive X amount of bad karma points. Then, depending on person's point of view in regards to karma, these points will gather until the end of the person's life, and they will either be rewarded with a better life in the next incarnation or be punished with a worse one. Others believe that you receive these karma points in this lifetime. Some refer to this line of thinking as New Age karma or Western karma. The classical understanding of karma is said to mean action. Action in the sense of how a ball falls to the ground after it has been thrown. Karma in this sense is a word of understanding cause and effect rather than a system of punishment or reward. In this understanding, the punishment or reward comes from the person's ability to learn a lesson. For example, say Johnny were to touch an iron and as a result he burned his hand. The karma in this example was the burned hand. Now if Johnny chooses to learn this lesson and check to see if the iron is hot before touching it, he has been rewarded by not receiving a nasty burn as he had originally. On the other hand, if he refuses to check the iron before he touches it, he is punished by receiving a burn the next time he touches a hot iron. Regardless of what the system is named, law of return, threefold law, karma, etc., it is used to teach people the effect that their actions have. No matter how foolish some of these laws sound or are, the fundamental principle is to make the follower, student, mage, etc. learn to understand cause and effect. It is of great importance to understand what type of effects your actions will have on the world around you. If you are careless, you may find that your actions can have important precautions 29 and unexpected ill effects on those that you love and care about. On the other hand, you may receive a great fortune by what seems to be luck. Amanda created a magical entity, which would slowly destroy a duplex. This entity also would torment the downstairs inhabitants as well as make the upstairs tenants uncomfortable in their surroundings, so much that they would want to move. Unfortunately, the next upstairs tenant was a good friend of Amanda's. One day when her friend was fixing the bathroom sink, it broke. Several days later, when he was fixing the kitchen sink, it also broke. A series of small mishaps at the duplex happened to this friend. She did not think out what would happen if a friend of hers ever would move in. This is an example of why it is important to think things through before creating an entity. The reason for mentioning this here is to make you aware of how the planning and creation of your entity can affect things around you, for better or worse. We will not tell you that as bad or bad things are going to happen to you if you choose to have your entity cause harm or misfortune to someone. It is not for us to judge, that is up to you. However, you should completely think through all of the possible effects that your actions, and those of your entity, may have. Once you have thought through all of them and are satisfied with all known possible results, only then should you proceed with your plans. There are times when things may happen that you did not foresee. These are times to learn how your actions have caused an effect on something, and time to own up to your actions. If you learn from these incidents, you may be able to better plan your actions at a later time. Or you may be able to accept that there are some things that are outside of your ability to control at this time, and to take responsibility for them when they happen. Page 17. Important precautions. The primary thing that you should do is to plan your actions so that you will have no guilt when they are acted out. This will require you to think through everything. Think through to the future and try to foresee any problems that your actions may cause. See if you may have guilt in the future. If you are unable to see, honestly unable to see, and are not kidding yourself just to make something happen, only then should you proceed with your plans. If you find that after your actions you do have guilt, the only thing that you should do is to correct the problem through whatever means possible. This may mean that you need to stop a magical working that you have done. This may even mean that you just have to accept what has happened and move on with your life. But whatever it is that you need to do, do it and take full responsibility of your actions. One last note about cause and effect: whatever your entity does, it does because of you and your intentions. Therefore, do not fall into the false security of kidding yourself by saying that since your entity did it and you did not, you are not responsible for what happened. Dependence on entity use. Sometimes when we use things, we begin to incorporate them into our lives. Soon we find it hard to think of a time when we didn't use such an item. We find ourselves dependent on that item. The same can be true when we start to work with the entities that we create and even the ones that we don't. Of course, depending on the level of dependency, this may not necessarily be a bad thing. We have dependencies with all kinds of things in our lives, and without them we may have to function differently, and it may take us longer, but we are still able to function. The dependencies that may develop through working with entities may only reach that level. Important precautions 31. When we come to depend on entities more than most other things, we may be putting ourselves into the path of problems. Some people create entities that do things like inspire creative thought or allow the picking of a winning horse. For a writer, if the entity of creative inspiration were to not work for some reason, after a long time of reliable service, the writer may find him or herself in a real predicament. The person that make his or her luxury income through the earnings on horse betting may soon find themselves with a real problem when they start losing money as opposed to making it. There is nothing wrong with having a mild dependency on an entity that you create, as long as you are still able to function in it normally without that entity. When you create an entity, do so with the understanding that the entity is only here to help. The entity is not here to do everything for you. If you follow this rule of thumb, you should not experience any negative issues when working with the entity that you create. Page 18. Goals and results. What is it that I want the entity to do? How will the entity accomplish this task? What variables do I need to factor in so that the entity is successful? What is my timetable? How do I ensure that the entity is doing its task? How do I wish the entity to appear to me? These questions, as well as others, are important case tie-ons to ask and answer. Take time to develop your answers, be sure of exactly what it is you want to do with the entity, and make sure you impress that into the entity. These case tie-ons will help you focus and attune your energy toward achieving what you want with the entity, and will also ensure that the experience is well worth the time invested. An important question to ask yourself is the following: is it worth it to conjure the entity and have it do the task, or are there other means to achieve my ends? Now, it may seem odd to ask this question in this book, but it is a very important and valid question to ask. It is not to say you shouldn't create entities, but you should be certain that it is justified. If you are one who likes to experiment, then your justification is just that. In order to learn more about entities, you work with them. By asking and answering this question, you will ensure yourself no regret, but rather a focused intent that will bring about what you want in a manner that works for you. Any magical undertaking should be considered carefully, and entity work is no exception. Picture in your mind's eye exactly what it is that you want. Try to see your desire manifested. See everything that would be affected by it. How would you feel? What? Page 19. Goals and results. Problems would this solve for you? How would it make other people feel? Try to make the desire manifestation as real as possible. Try to understand the feelings that you would have once it has come to pass. After you have crystallized your desire as much as possible, for every conceivable aspect, write it down in as much detail as you can. Write down the results that you will achieve from the desire. Write your emotions and feelings in regards to the desire that will manifest. Capture the essence of what this desire will bring into your life. Make this as clear and as detailed as possible. When you have write all of this down, you have taken your first step toward manifesting your desires. In MANY Magical Systems, writing down the desire in as much detail creates an astral blueprint for your goals. This blueprint is the starting point for all things to come into being. When you are finished writing down everything that you can think of, determine from WHAT source your desire will come, and the impact that the source may have. In other words, if your desire was to receive a lump sum of money, yes, the standard, magical how-to example, where would the money come from? Well, will you receive it rough the means of payment for an RT sculpture that you have recently finished? Would you find an envelope full of money on your way to the park? Will the money come from a disability settlement from the accident at work that left you without the use of your right arm? Did Yogi receive it because a dear person to you died and stated in his or her will that you are to receive the money? As you can see, there are many ways that you could receive the lump sum of cash in a favorable way. You can also see that there are numerous ways to gain the money to TUMAY not like losing URA or the death of a loved one. The purpose of this exercise is so to TU goals and results 35 can TRY to find the best and second best possible ways for you to have your goal manifest. By doing this, you are trying to eliminate to the best of your ability any negative source to you would not want your desire to manifest rough. When you have found the best ways for your desire to come into being, write it down. Then visualize you're receiving your desire rough the sources that you have chosen. Does it feel right to you? Have you thought of everything that may come from this source? If you can honestly say yes, then that is the most logical source for you. If you answered no, then keep thinking of a better source until you have found one that works for you. Now you should put the paper away for a day or two and try not to think about your desire. It may be hard not to, but do the best that you can. If you find yourself thinking about it, acknowledge it for what it is and allow it to pass. What this will do is allow your subconscious to figure out the easiest and best way to manifest your desires in the framework that you have provided. It will mull over the details that you may not have thought about. It will then decide if it is able to do it or not. In some cases, your subconscious may need more details. It may even suggest a different route to gain the desires. All of this will help to lead you to the manifestation of your desires. This is called the incubation stage. After a day or TWO of allowing your subconscious to build a plan, take out the paper and review what was WRIT 10 down. Does WHATU have WRITTEN still make sense to you? Is this still WHAT you want? You may find that WHAT was WRIT 10 is still exactly what you want. You may also find that you want to add or subtract a few things but that overall the idea is sound. Page 20. 6 GOALSAND results still you may find that you are going about obtaining the desire the WRONG way. You may now have fresh new ideas to try out to will better your chances at attaining your goals. Others will find that, after taking time out to incubate their thoughts, their WRIT 10 desires really are not what they truly want. New ideas and thoughts may come to the surface. Continue to develop your magical goals and desires until you are honestly happy YTHWHAT you have. It is then that you can begin to design an entity to bring your desires and goals into manifestation. We mentioned the need to define possible results and outcomes from using the entity. This does not mean you should lust for results, i.e., expect that a result will occur instantaneously and your problem will be solved. This is not to say that you should not think about it, don't think about the results all the time. This may cause you to be disappointed when the results you expect don't happen. Magic is a subtle force and shows itself in subtle ways. When working WITH an entity, you should certainly have an idea of what kind of result will come about rough the use of the entity. Just don't let the result become an obsession. Further, recognize variations of the result you wanted. Sometimes you want quite accomplish what you set out to do, but the result can still be useful to you. Planning your entity now that you have defined your goals and desires, it is made to define the purposes of your entity. It is made to think about the tasks of the entity. Think about the role it will play in the manifestation of your goals and desires. In the example provided earlier, the attainment of a lump sum of cash, your entity could have different types of tasks based upon your goals and desires. Let's say, for example, that you wish to receive a lump sum of cash, and you wish to receive it rough the sale of a sculpture. You may wish to have the entity provide inspiration and fine craftsmanship to you during the creation of the sculpture. You may wish to have the entity attract the attention of FNRT collectors from your region to buy your artwork. Then entity could even have a task of influencing anyone that lays eyes upon the artwork to want to buy the piece. There are MANY options available to you during the creation of your entity's tasks. After you have defined the entity's tasks, you must figure out the realm of influence the entity will have. The realm of influence is like the trade or craft of the entity. There are TWO realms of influence that need to be defined, the general and the specific. The general realm of influence describes what type of trade or craft the entity is involved in. For example, a baseball player would have the general realm of influence in sports. A journal IST could have different ones to choose from, depending on the WAYUWANT to look at it. The journalist's general realm of influence could be information or RT, assuming the TU view WRITing as an art form. Page 21. Planning your entity in the lump sum of cash entity example from above, you have decided to make the entity's task to influence people to be your sculpture. You can then look at the task and decide that the entity's general realm of influence is sales. This would mean that the entity is knowledgeable in the RT of selling things. Once you have the general realm of influence, you can use that information to think about and gather correspondence ideas for later incorporation WITH the entity. For the lump sum of cash entity, YTH a general realm of influence in sales, UMAY start thinking of things like orange for attraction, rose petals for love or admiration, etc. These ideas will be things that you can and should use when creating your entity. Later we will discuss how to incorporate these ideas into your entity. After you have figured out the general realm of intent, it is made to create the specific realm of influence. Going back to our baseball player example, his or her specific realm of intent may be the pitcher for the New York City Screaming Eagles. The journal is T's specific realm of influence could be star reporter for the Orlando Music Press. The lump sum of cash entity could have a specific realm of influence of attractor of and seller to purchasers of fine art. Armed YTH the specific realm of influence, we are able to start to develop the entity's statement of intent, which will become the core, or DNA, if you will, of the entity. The statement of intent for this entity could be to influence and attract fine art purchasers that are willing and able to purchase my sculpture for price that I set. Now you have the core of the entity's existence defined. This will make it much easier for you to create your entity. It will also improve the likelihood that your magical working will produce the results that you wish to attain. Planning your entity 39. Perform divination to make sure that the entity's purpose is for the best of all that it will have an effect over. In other words, you want to make sure that the purpose of the entity is sound and correct WITH your ethical principles and will not cause any adverse effects that you may have not thought of. Be honest WITH yourself when divining, because it can be very tempting to make yourself believe that a reading is telling you to proceed, even though the reading is trying to issue to you a dire warning. UMAYWANT to enlist the help of a trusted person to perform the divination for you. Having the outside person perform a reading for you may be the buffer that you need to make sure that you are engaging in a magical working that is truly in your best interest. If the divination reading turns out to not be in your best interest, all is not lost. It is best to take the recommendations from the reading and try looking at your goals and desires for hidden ideas. You may want to sleep on it before reviewing your goals. This will bring upon the incubation again to help you clear out unwanted influences. After you have had made to review, it's made to start over. Look for areas that you may have missed the first time. Look for things that the reading suggested to be changed. After all of this, it is made to go back to divination to see if your new plan is beneficial to you. Once you get a go-ahead reading, you should continue with the creation of your entity. It should be fairly easy from here on out. Page 22. When working with entities, it is important to be aware of the consequences of this type of magical working. Just like other forms of magical workings, using entities comes with both responsibilities and cautions. This section is not here to tell you what you should or should not do. It is here to make you aware of the things that you may encounter while working with entities, and things to think about when creating them. This section serves as a guide for you to fully think out what it is that you plan to do with your entity. Laws of cause and effect. In some religious and spiritual circles, the law of return is a widely held and accepted doctrine. This law dictates that whatever action is done by you, you shall receive back. Therefore, if you were to do good one day, you shall receive something good in return, and conversely, if you do something bad, you shall receive something bad. In Wicca, they have something similar to the law of return. They call this the threefold law. They understand this law to mean that whatever you do, good or bad, returns to you with 3 times the strength. There are differing views as to how and when you receive the threefold effect, but nonetheless, most Wiccans agree that such an effect occurs. In some New Age groups, the law of return is referred to as karma, the force generated by a person's actions to perpetuate transmigration, and in its ethical. Page 23. Important precautions, consequences to determine the nature of the person's next existence. Some even understand karma to act as a cosmic score of fate. In other words, if Johnny does good, he will receive X amount of good karma points, whereas if Sally does something bad, she will receive X amount of bad karma points. Then, depending on person's point of view in regards to karma, these points will gather until the end of the person's life, and they will either be rewarded with a better life in the next incarnation or be punished with a worse one. Others believe that you receive these karma points in this lifetime. Some refer to this line of thinking as New Age karma or Western karma. The classical understanding of karma is said to mean action. Action in the sense of how a ball falls to the ground after it has been thrown. Karma in this sense is a word of understanding cause and effect rather than a system of punishment or reward. In this understanding, the punishment or reward comes from the person's ability to learn a lesson. For example, say Johnny were to touch an iron and as a result he burned his hand. The karma in this example was the burned hand. Now if Johnny chooses to learn this lesson and check to see if the iron is hot before touching it, he has been rewarded by not receiving a nasty burn as he had originally. On the other hand, if he refuses to check the iron before he touches it, he is punished by receiving a burn the next time he touches a hot iron. Regardless of what the system is named, law of return, threefold law, karma, etc., it is used to teach people the effect that their actions have. No matter how foolish some of these laws sound or are, the fundamental principle is to make the follower, student, mage, etc., learn to understand cause and effect. It is of great importance to understand what type of effects your actions will have on the world around you. If you are careless, you may find that your actions can have important precautions 29 and unexpected ill effects on those that you love and care about. On the other hand, you may receive a great fortune by what seems to be luck. Amanda created a magical entity, which would slowly destroy a duplex. This entity also would torment the downstairs inhabitants as well as make the upstairs tenants uncomfortable in their surroundings, so much that they would want to move. Unfortunately, the next upstairs tenant was a good friend of Amanda's. One day when her friend was fixing the bathroom sink, it broke. Several days later, when he was fixing the kitchen sink, it also broke. A series of small mishaps at the duplex happened to this friend. She did not think out what would happen if a friend of hers ever would move in. This is an example of why it is important to think things through before creating an entity. The reason for mentioning this here is to make you aware of how the planning and creation of your entity can affect things around you, for better or worse. We will not tell you that as bad or bad things are going to happen to you if you choose to have your entity cause harm or misfortune to someone. It is not for us to judge, that is up to you. However, you should completely think through all of the possible effects that your actions, and those of your entity, may have. Once you have thought through all of them and are satisfied with all known possible results, only then should you proceed with your plans. There are times when things may happen that you did not foresee. These are times to learn how your actions have caused an effect on something, and time to own up to your actions. If you learn from these incidents, you may be able to better plan your actions at a later time. Or you may be able to accept that there are some things that are outside of your ability to control at this time, and to take responsibility for them when they happen. Page 24. Important precautions. The primary thing that you should do is to plan your actions so that you will have no guilt when they are acted out. This will require you to think through everything. Think through to the future and try to foresee any problems that your actions may cause. See if you may have guilt in the future. If you are unable to see, honestly unable to see, and are not kidding yourself just to make something happen, only then should you proceed with your plans. If you find that after your actions you do have guilt, the only thing that you should do is to correct the problem through whatever means possible. This may mean that you need to stop a magical working that you have done. This may even mean that you just have to accept what has happened and move on with your life. But whatever it is that you need to do it and take full responsibility of your actions. One last note about cause and effect: whatever your entity does, it does because of you and your intentions. Therefore, do not fall into the false security of kidding yourself by saying that since your entity did it and you did not, you are not responsible for what happened. Dependence on entity use: sometimes when we use things, we begin to incorporate them into our lives. Soon we find it hard to think of a time when we didn't use such an item. We find ourselves dependent on that item. The same can be true when we start to work with the entities that we create, and even the ones that we don't. Of course, depending on the level of dependency, this may not necessarily be a bad thing. We have dependencies with all kinds of things in our lives, and without them we may have to function differently, and it may take us longer, but we are still able to function. The dependencies that may develop through working with entities may only reach that level. Important precautions. 31. When we come to depend on entities more than most other things, we may be putting ourselves into the path of problems. Some people create entities that do things like inspire creative thought or allow the picking of a winning horse. For a writer, if the entity of creative inspiration were to not work for some reason, after a long time of reliable service, the writer may find him or herself in a real predicament. The person that make his or her luxury income through the earnings on horse betting may soon find themselves with a real problem when they start losing money as opposed to making it. There is nothing wrong with having a mild dependency on an entity that you create, as long as you are still able to function in a normally without that entity. When you create an entity, do so with the understanding that the entity is only here to help. The entity is not here to do everything for you. If you follow this rule of thumb, you should not experience any negative issues when working with the entity that you create. Page 25. Goals and results. What is it that I want the entity to do? How will the entity accomplish this task? What variables do I need to factor in so that the entity is successful? What is my timetable? How do I ensure that the entity is doing its task? How do I wish the entity to appear to me? These questions, as well as others, are important case tie-ons to ask and answer. Take time to develop your answers, be sure of exactly what it is you want to do with the entity, and make sure you impress that into the entity. These case tie-ons will help you focus and attune your energy toward achieving what you want with the entity, and will also ensure that the experience is well worth the time invested. An important question to ask yourself is the following: is it worth it to conjure the entity and have it do the task, or are there other means to achieve my ends? Now, it may seem odd to ask this question in this book, but it is a very important and valid question to ask. It is not to say you shouldn't create entities, but you should be certain that it is justified. If you are one who likes to experiment, then your justification is just that. In order to learn more about entities, you work with them. By asking and answering this question, you will ensure yourself no regret, but rather a focused intent that will bring about what you want in a manner that any magical undertaking should be considered carefully. Picture in your mind's eye exactly what it is that desire manifested. See everything that would be affected by it. How would you feel? What? Page 26. Goals and results. Problems would this solve for you? How would it make other people feel? Manifestation as real as possible. Try to understand the feelings that you would have once it has come to pass. After you have crystallized your desire as much as possible, for every conceivable aspect, write it down in as much detail as you can. Write down the results that you will achieve from the desire. Write your emotions and feelings in regards to the desire that will manifest. Capture the essence of what this desire will bring into your life. Make this as clear and as detailed as possible. When you have write all of this down, you have taken your first step toward manifesting your desires. In MANY Magical Systems, writing down the desire in as much detail creates an astral blueprint for your goals. This blueprint is the starting point for all things to come into being. When you are finished writing DOWN everything that you can think of determine from WHAT source your desire will come, and the impact that the source may have. In other words, if your desire was to receive a lump sum of money, yes, the standard, magical how-to, example, where would the money come from? Well, will you receive it rough the means of payment for an art sculpture that you have recently finished? Would you find an envelope full of money on your way to the park? Will the money come from a disability settlement from the accident at work that left you without the use of your right arm? Did Yogi receive it because a dear person to you died and stated in his or her will that you are to receive the money? As you can see, there are many ways that you could receive the lump sum of cash in a favorable way. You can also see that there are numerous ways to gain the money not like losing your arm or the death of a loved one. The purpose of this exercise is so that you goals and results 35 can try to find the best and second best possible ways for you to have your goal manifest. By doing this, you are trying to eliminate to the best of your ability any negative source that you would not want your desire to manifest rough. When you have found the best ways for your desire to come into being, write it down. Then visualize your receiving your desire rough the sources that you have chosen. Does it feel right to you? Have you thought of everything that may come from this source? If you can honestly say yes, then that is the most logical source for you. If you answered no, then keep thinking of a better source until you have found one that works for you. Now you should put the paper away for a day or two and try not to think about your desire. It may be hard not to, but do the best that you can. If you find yourself thinking about it, acknowledge it for what it is and allow it to pass. What this will do is allow your subconscious to figure out the easiest and best way to manifest your desires in the framework that you have provided. It will mull over the details that you may not have thought about. It will then decide if it is able to do it or not. In some cases, your subconscious may need more details. It may even suggest a different route to gain the desires. All of this will help to lead you to the manifestation of your desires. This is called the incubation stage. After a day or two of allowing your subconscious to build a plan, take out the paper and review what was writ 10 down. Does WHAT you have WRITTEN still make sense to you? Is this still WHAT you want? You may find that WHAT was WRIT 10 is still exactly what you want. You may also find that you want to add or subtract a few things, but that overall the idea is sound. Page 27. 6 GOALSAND results still you may find that you were going about obtaining the desire the WRONG way. You may now have fresh new ideas to try out that will better your chances at attaining your goals. Others will find that, after taking time out to incubate their thoughts, their WRIT 10 desires really are not what they truly want. New ideas and thoughts may come to the surface. Continue to develop your magical goals and desires until you are honestly happy with WHAT you have. It is then that you can begin to design an entity to bring your desires and goals into manifestation. We mentioned the need to define possible results and outcomes from using the entity. This does not mean you should lust for results, i.e., expect that a result will occur instantaneously and that your problem will be solved. This is not to say that you should not think about it, don't think about the results all the time. This may cause you to be disappointed when the results you expect don't happen. Magic is a subtle force and shows itself in subtle ways. When working with an entity, you should certainly have an idea of what kind of result will come about rough the use of the entity. Just don't let the result become an obsession. Further, recognize variations of the result you wanted. Sometimes you want to quite accomplish what you set out to do, but the result can still be useful to you. Planning your entity now that you have defined your goals and desires, it is made to define the purposes of your entity. It is made to think about the tasks of the entity. Think about the role it will play in the manifestation of your goals and desires. In the example provided earlier, the attainment of a lump sum of cash, your entity could have different types of tasks based upon your goals and desires. Let's say, for example, that you wish to receive a lump sum of cash, and you wish to receive it rough the sale of a sculpture. You may wish to have the entity provide inspiration and fine craftsmanship to you during the creation of the sculpture. You may wish to have the entity attract the attention of FNRT collectors from your region to buy your artwork. Then entity could even have a task of influencing anyone that lays eyes upon the artwork to want to buy the piece. There are MANY options available to you during the creation of your entity's tasks. After you have defined the entity's tasks, you must figure out the realm of influence the entity will have. The realm of influence is like the trade or craft of the entity. There are TWO realms of influence that need to be defined, the general and the specific. The general realm of influence describes what type of trade or craft the entity is involved in. For example, a baseball player would have the general realm of influence in sports. A journal could have different ones to choose from, depending on the WAYUWANT to look at it. The journalist's general realm of influence could be information or art, assuming the TU view WRITing as an art form. Page 28. Planning your entity in the lump sum of cash entity example from above, you have decided to make the entity's task to influence people to buy your sculpture. You can then look at the task and decide that the entity's general realm of influence is sales. This would mean that the entity is knowledgeable in the art of selling things. Once you have the general realm of influence, you can use that information to think about and gather correspondence ideas for later incorporation the entity. For the lump sum of cash entity, a general realm of influence in sales, you may start thinking of things like orange for attraction, rose petals for love or admiration, etc. These ideas will be things that you can and should use when creating your entity. Later we will discuss how to incorporate these ideas into your entity. After you have figured out the general realm of intent, it is made to create the specific realm of influence. Going back to our baseball player example, his or her specific realm of intent may be the pitcher for the New York City Screaming Eagles. The journalist's specific realm of influence could be star reporter for the Orlando Music Press. The lump sum of cash entity could have a specific realm of influence of attractor of and seller to purchasers of fine art. Armed the specific realm of influence, we are able to start to develop the entity's statement of intent, which will become the core, or DNA, if you will, of the entity. The statement of intent for this entity could be to influence and attract fine art purchasers that are willing and able to purchase my sculpture for price that I set. Now you have the core of the entity's existence defined. This will make it much easier for you to create your entity. It will also improve the likelihood that your magical working will produce the results that you wish to attain. Planning your entity 39. Perform divination to make sure that the entity's purpose is for the best of all that it will have an effect over. In other words, you want to make sure that the purpose of the entity is sound and correct your ethical principles and will not cause any adverse effects that you may have not thought of. Be honest yourself when divining, because it can be very tempting to make yourself believe that a reading is telling you to proceed, even though the reading is trying to issue to you a dire warning. You may want to enlist the help of a trusted person to perform the divination for you. Having the outside person perform a reading for you may be the buffer that you need to make sure that you are engaging in a magical working that is truly in your best interest. If the divination reading turns out to not be in your best interest, all is not lost. It is best to take the recommendations from the reading and try looking at your goals and desires for hidden ideas. You may want to sleep on it before reviewing your goals. This will bring upon the incubation, again to help you clear out unwanted influences. After you have had made to review, it's made to start over. Look for areas that you may have missed the first time. Look for things that the reading suggested to be changed. After all of this, it is time to go back to divination to see if your new plan is beneficial to you. Once you get a go-ahead reading, you should continue with the creation of your entity. It should be fairly easy from here on out. Page 29. Choosing a name. Naming an entity can be one of the most difficult things to do for some magi. Some, unnecessarily, agonize over what type of name would give justice to their creation. Others are afraid that they are not creative enough to come up with an original name. Still others fear that the name that they pick will conflict with pre-existing entities. For most, however, naming an entity as as easy as breathing. There really is no reason why you should feel any differently about the subject. There are many different formulas and methods that you can employ to help you come up with a name that suits your entity. One of the easiest ways of naming an entity is to derive its name from the statement of intent. This is done by first taking the statement of intent to influence and attract fine art purchasers that are able to and that will purchase my sculpture for price that I set, for example, and removing all of the unneeded words like a, the, and, that, of, etc. Ideally, you should have around 3 to 9 words left, for example, influence attract fine art purchasers able will purchase my sculpture price I set. As you can see from the example, the 3 to 9 words left rule of THUMB will not be valid in every case. Next, you will take the first letter of the remaining words and combine those letters together to form the entity's name. So in our example, we would have Ifaropspis. As you can see, this name is very unintelligible and not easily pronounceable. In this case, we will further reduce the name down by removing all of the repeated letters. When we do this, we come up with Iafrafems. Page 30. Choosing a name, the result is somewhat more manageable, but lacking some vowels, it is still difficult to work with th. In such cases, we will want to add vowels that will allow for us to create a name that is pronounceable. Choosing the extra letters can be done in many different fashions. One of the easiest is to pick and choose the letters that UTH will complement the name the best. Another way is to choose the letters that have numerical symbolism that will bring the full name to a number via numerology that resonates with the entity's task. For our example, we will take the numerology root, which gives us Fariwaspim, YTH, a numerology equivalent of the number 6, magnetic, sociable, artistic, etc., using the Pythagorean system of numerology. Now this is a little bit easier to read and say, but we are going to take it a bit further and split the name into two. Doing that gives us Fariwaspim. Sometimes you may want to name the entity after its function, like buy new car. You may want to spell it backwards like Rakwenyub and combine them to form the name of Rakwenyub. The names may be long, are pronounceable in the long form. If this is the case, it is okay to break the name up like Rakwenyub or Rakyubwin. The reason for spelling the words backward is to free your mind of the name's meaning and also to give the feeling of antiquated names of spirits of old often found in spell books and such. This is not necessary, it is merely a point of personal taste. Some magi feel that working YTH entities YTH odd names seem to help them in focusing on the magical working at hand, while others feel that it hinders them. Use what feels and works best for you. Whatever type of naming convention you use, it is a good idea to try, if possible, to somehow incorporate the entity's task into the name. This will serve to further the entity's connection to the desired task and will build power in the use of the entity. Choosing a name 43. One thing that should be mentioned here is that you should be wary of any negative feelings that you get from a name, whether you constructed the name from scratch or simply chose describing words. If the name feels negative to you, or has negative descriptive words, it may hinder your magical workings. This is not to say if you are constructing an entity to curse someone or thing that it should not sound negative in general, rather the name should not feel negative to you, the one working YTH it. If it does feel negative to you, in other words you don't like the name or it leaves a bad feeling when saying or working WITH it, then you should not use it. For if you do, you may begin to resent your entity, and your magical working may not manifest in the manner in which you had hoped. Always try to name your entity YTHANAME that you like and that feels good to you when you work YTH it. Of course, you do not have to name your entity at all. Some very successful entities have never been named. Naming them, however, affords them personality. Since we, as humans, tend to have an easier time relating to things that have names. Names also allow us to have control over that which is named. In some magical traditions, names are symbolic of the thing that is named. Because of this by naminga thing, or entity in this case, you can guide it to do your wishes. That is an important thing to keep in mind when creating your entity. After all, you are creating it to serve you and your wishes. Page 31. Your entity's appearance. There are many different ways to come up with an appearance for your entity. A rather simple way is to take its general realm of influence and look for symbolism that would afford a good appearance. You could also think about the entity's task and then design an appearance that would be best suited for completing the task successfully. The list is seemingly endless. We will focus on a method that is not well documented on general occult circles. This method creates the entity's appearance from the letters of its name. You do this by taking the name and turning the letters into symbolic representations of the astral body parts of the entity. The first letter represents the head area, and the last letter represents its foot area. The remaining letters represent different parts between the head and foot regions. The amount of detail depends on the amount of letters that are between the first and last letters. The more letters, the finer the details. The fewer letters, the more general the details. In our example, we will use numerology as our symbolism. In numerology, specifically Pythagorean numerology, each number is assigned to a letter of the alphabet and is viewed as feminine or masculine. Every number has a specific characteristic which can lend to us an idea of what the entity can look like. Our example entity, Furiwaspim, has the letter F as a head and the letter M as the feet. So, looking to numerology, we see that the letter F is the number 6. The number 6, which is feminine in nature, will provide our entity female-like features in the face. Since the number. Page 32. Your entity's appearance 6 is associated with occupations like artists, host, hostess, advisors, public speakers, etc. We can start to visualize the facial features of people that fill those roles. The letter M is also feminine by nature due to its association with the number 4. The number 4 is related to the occupations of architect, sculptor, TV or radio personality, etc. We will continue to do this for the rest of the letters in the entity's name. You will find that in numerology a number can represent different different things. It is up to you to decide which aspect of you wish to have associated with your entity. For example, we have chosen the following associations for our example entity: F, I, R, I, W, A, S, P, I, M, head, neck, upper chest, ARMS, HANDS, lower chest, stomach, buttocks area, thighs, shin area, feet. 6, feminine, 9, masculine, 9, masculine, 9, masculine, 5, masculine, 1, masculine, 1, masculine, 7, masculine, 9, masculine, 4, feminine, advisor, artist, Salispers, expert, poet, artist, sculpture. We have chosen professions that we feel will add to the entity persona and provide us an idea of WHAT it should look like. We can also look at the amount of feminine and masculine letters, numbers that make up the NAME, to find out its sex. In our example, we have a greater number of masculine letters, numbers, Han feminine letters, numbers, so our entity is male. You can use any system that you feel comfortable with to use as the symbolism for the letters. For example, a mage that is versed in Norse mythology may want to use some incarnation of runes. Another mage, knowledgeable your entity's appearance 47 in the Kabbalah, may wish to use the Hebraic alphabet to aid in his or her creation of his or her entity's appearance. The important thing is to use WHAT ever feels right to you and works best for you. Even though our example suggests that our entity is anthropomorphic, this does not have to be the case. In MANY books, entities often take on shapes that are not found in our common everyday lives. Some of these entities were half beast or half animal. Other entities were completely alien in appearance. You may create your entity's appearance in any form or fashion that you would like. An important thing to remember, besides doing WHAT feels right and works best for you, is to make sure that the appearance of your entity is in HARMONYYTH its realms of influence. It would be counterproductive to have an entity that beautifies things to look so horrible that you could not stand to look at it. Unless you have a specific reason not to, you should try to keep your entity's appearance related to its tasks. Think of it like this: let's say you took your car to an auto mechanics shop. You notice that all of the mechanics are wearing three-piece suits. You also notice that this is not the first time that they have worn these suits, they wear them all of the time. There is never a speck or spot on them. Would you feel comfortable taking your car to this shop? WHAT kind of work could you expect from it? There is nothing saying that this may not be the best shop in the world, but by going on looks alone, you may have reservations about having your car worked on there. This is something that you should think about when constructing your entity's appearance. You should make sure that you are satisfied with the appearance of your entity and that it is right for its tasks. This will make it easier for you to do the magical working at hand. Page 33. Housing your entity. One of the easiest ways for people to interact with entities is to evoke the entity into a physical item. Usually the physical containers of entities resemble the entities themselves. It is thought that as long as the physical container resembles the entity as much as possible, the entity will feel encouraged to stay in its physical representation. Using objects as the physical bodies of entities is very effective for magical workings because it calls upon the instinctive and intuitive behaviors from our childhood. Children are born with the ability to give life to things. An example of this is the ability to give life to their toys. They are so good at this that they even have the ability to hear them speak. The way that a child creates an imaginary friend is similar to the manner in which you would create an entity. Using images as a focal point of entity cation is no thing new. Catholics pray to saints, Jesus, Mary, etc. Biasing paintings, statues, and altars to aid their communication. This technique of working with entities has been used for thousands of years by different cultures. Making a physical object have an entity live in it can be as simple or complex as you want it to be. The basic requirement to animate an object is to treat it as though it were already alive. Once this basic requirement has been understood, it can be dressed up as fancily as you would like, though you are not required to do so. Because of its ease, people may not acknowledge its effectiveness. Page 34. Housing your entity. The technique noted above is very similar to the way witches create familiars. Alchemists have used the technique to impregnate their formulas with entities. This technique has been able to remain occult, i.e., hidden or secret, due to its simplicity. It is a classic case of hiding something in plain sight. It has been disregarded because of its simplicity, and thus remains a very effective and powerful occult technique. What attracts entities to take up residence in physical objects is the sincerity and devotion of a person wishing to have such an entity. The person, of course, must have firm faith and belief in the presence of the entity. Ritual, to create an entity or otherwise, helps to express this sincerity and devotion. Rituals can also be used to confirm the person's faith in the entity. Entities respond very well to the idea of like a T-Rex, like, i.e., that the more two things resemble each other, the more likely they are to relate to one another. Having understood this, it becomes very important to carefully choose the symbols and characteristics of the physical object in which you wish your entity to reside. Nearly any thing can serve to house an entity. If you can identify it, it can be a suitable home for an entity, although some objects are better than others. Objects that are harmonious with the entity's realm of influence are a better choice than those that are not. The size of the entity's home is not of great importance. What really matters is the shape, appearance, and the substance of the home. The object should be of a size that is convenient to work with. When selecting a suitable home for your entity, you have TWO choices. The first choice is to select a prefabricated object. This can range from statues of all shapes, sizes, and substances to pictures, paintings, candles, rocks, buildings, balloons, books, glasses, computers, animals, plants, housing your entity 51 talismans, dolls, telephones, crystals, or even a remittance envelope for your business bearing your entity's P. Raj Ram Ming symbol on it. The second option is to construct the housing using your knowledge of the entity's personality, realm of influence, and other occult virtues. Whatever the object is, it must be one that is reactive to you. It must stir feelings of interest. If the housing seems lifeless or uninteresting, it will be a poor home for the entity. To be effective, the housing must have qualities that make you want to interact with it. It is better to avoid objects that resemble a living or dead person that you cannot in any fashion or recognize. This will help you keep your work with your entity as pure as possible. If such objects are used, you may confuse the energy of the person with that of the entity. This may cause ill effects on the person that the object resembles. Of course, this does not apply if you are intentionally trying to create an entity that is to have a bond with the person represented by the object. Entity housing can be formed from just about anything. The important thing to remember is to choose materials that will withst and wear, tear, and repeated handling for the life of the entity. Page 35. Housing your entity. Taylor has entities that are housed with in his voice, coming forth only when he says specific words, while others go into a more sight-oriented manifestation, like his paintings. Amanda's fairy thought forms, e.g. fairy of lost things, fairy of sweet dreams, etc., are housed with in various fairy statues. She has also housed a vengeance entity with in a house itself. David houses entities in bottles, candles, keys, and even an arrowhead. Usually the housing is chosen out of convenience rather than symbolism. Be creative when creating the appearance and housing of the entity. After all, the appearance can be descriptive of what the entity is and what it does. If you are artistic, you may want to create the object yourself. By doing so, you are unconsciously forming the entity in your mind. This will serve to strengthen the bond between the entity and yourself. Also, in this way the object will resonate deep with in your psyche and improve your workings with the entity. When creating an object for the entity to live in, you may want to plan for a cavity in the object that will allow for you to deposit items vital to the entity. For example, you may want to place the entity's task and programming symbol on a small scroll and place it inside the cavity. You may want to have an area that you can place blood, semen, or other fluids during the ritual giving life to the entity. There are many other reasons, if you choose to have one, for leaving a cavity in the entity's housing. If you are constructing the entity's housing, you may wish to incorporate a color or colors that correspond and are harmonious to the entity's realm of influence. If you are not sure which color or colors to use, choose something that is attractive and pleasing to you. You may also wish to use astrological times when creating the entity's housing. Magical workings can be greatly influenced if they are used. On the other hand, housing your entity 53 is not essential to use them either. As a matter of fact, the magical working can be greatly simplified if they are not used. It can be helpful, however, to do workings during the proper phase of the moon, and on days that are harmonious with your magical endeavor. In ancient times people would use stones and crystals, with appropriate attributes, to bind an entity to a plant that had similar attributes to the entity's realm of influence. As long as the plant and stones were harmonious with the entity, it would use the plant as a home while working with the person that bound it. The stones serve to charge the plant with the energy of the entity and with its realm of influence. If you have a green thumb and a bit of ingenuity and creativity, you could do something similar. Once an entity has been provided with a physical body, it tends to respond and perform better than a disembodied one. Also, an entity with a physical body tends to show more interest in human experience. Therefore, an embodied entity will actually want to help you in your efforts. This will provide the entity the human experiences that it soon grows accustomed to. Not all entities require housings. Short-term entities sometimes have a lifespan that is so short that a physical housing is not necessary. For those types of entities, it may be better to link or house them to aromas. The aroma could be inhaled during the creation and evocation of your entity. You may even wish to anoint a physical housing if one is used YTH the selected aroma. Remember to choose one that is appealing to you and is harmonious WITH the entity's realm of influence. You may WANT to consider constructing a shrine for the entity. The entity's housing serves as the physical body of the entity, while the shrine serves as the house of the entity. The shrine does not need to be detailed or elaborate. Again, the most important things to remember are to make. Page 36. Sure that it is pleasing and attractive to you, and that it fits the personality of the entity and its realm of influence. You may even wish to make your shrine portable. This will allow you to move it or keep it out of sight. Whenever you attempt to create an entity, the physical object in which it is to reside, or both, use personal judgment and intuition. There are MANY correspondences YTH specific meanings and uses in most, if not all, magical systems. Because of this, it may be difficult to decide which one to use. If you have a general idea of what the entity's realm of influence is, this will help NARROWDOWN the choices that you have. At any rate, use your OWN mind to guide you and never act as a slave to any magical system. Feeding time energy of some form or another has to be supplied in order for an entity to exist. Entities feed off energy, MUCH, like we eat and drink. Just as you would die if you didn't eat, so too will an entity cease to exist without proper energy. Therefore, WHEN creating an entity great consideration must be taken as to where an HOW the entity will receive its regular supply of energy. Feeding the entity need not be too difficult. There are TWOCOMMON ways that the entity can receive energy. The first is to feed an entity from your personal energy, and the second is to have it feed from an energy source external to you. When you first create an entity, an amount of your energy is used to give the entity life. You can continue to be the entity's sole source of energy if you would like to have an entity totally dependent on you for its existence. The way that you could feed your entity energy from you is to talk to it daily. This will help to build the connection between you and your entity, while at the same time directing your personal attention and energy to it from which it can feed. Another way is to offer it devotional plates of food. Of course, the entity will not eat the physical food, rather it will feed off of the essence of the food. This acts as a sign of your affection. You can also meditate on the image of the entity and visualize energy streaming from your astral body and flowing into that of the entity. Basically, any attention that you give to the entity can serve as an energy feeding. There are MANY other ways to accomplish this if you take the time to find what is right for you and to allow yourself to be creative. Page 37. Feeding time. Just as there are MANY ways to creatively feed your entity energy from yourself, there are as MANY ways to creatively feed the entity from an energy source external to you. If your entity's task is to help dissolve automobile traffic, jams, and things of the like, you could assign the entity to feed off of the energy patterns generated from automobile traffic. By doing this, you have eliminated the need for constant attention from you in order for the entity to survive, and you have provided it YTH a relatively endless supply of energy, provided that there is always automobile traffic. ANYTE may that you would call upon the entity to help you out in a traffic jam. Your added attention and energy would help to boost the entity's ability to do its job. If you were to create an entity to help you out WITH homework, you could assign the entity to feed off of the very source that creates the homework. By doing that, you have an entity that will always have a supply of energy to help you YTH your homework as long as there is homework to do. WHAT happens if there is no more homework and your entity starves. That is fine, because as long as there is no homework, you have no need of an entity to help you YTH homework. Therefore, the homework entity will juti facie from existence. You can also create a hybrid system of feeding your You can make it so that the entity has a constant source of energy external to you, BUTWHEN, you feed it energy through whatever means, the entity receives a great energy boost. That energy boost can be used to help you, or whatever the entity is created to do, much more efficiently. Also, by specifying a secondary form of energy external to you, you ensure the entity's existence during those times that you do not actively need its services. It is kind of like a child that learns that it can eat food outside of its home to survive, but seems to enjoy and benefit from home-cooked meals more. Feeding time 57. Whatever energy source that you provide to your entity, there are TWO things to keep in mind. The first thing is to make sure to the source of energy is harmonious YTH the task and the realm of influence of the entity, and that the source of energy is pleasing to you, because if it is not pleasing, or becomes a burden on you to provide, your entity will suffer from it. The second thing to remember is to make sure to you give your entity some form of energy and that your entity knows where its next meal is coming from. If you forget to do this, your entity may never come into existence, or, as some occultists seem to believe, your entity could become a roaming vampire, looking for energy wherever it may find it. Page 38. Magical abilities. To create an entity, you need to know what types of abilities it should have. What types of qualities should your entity have? Since you already have decided on the entity's realm of influence and its appearance, you should think about what types of tools, if any at all, it uses and if it wears anything special like a cloak, ring, or necklace to help it in achieving its tasks. For those of you that may be creating an entity that will last a while, or for those of you that like writing and being creative, you may benefit from writing a short biography of your entity's magical abilities. This biography should detail how great the entity is at its magical task. You can describe how your entity reacts to different situations, how it solves specific problems, how it interacts with people and animals, etc. Try to give as much life to your entity as you can through your details. After you have finished writing the entity's magical biography, you should read it. Make sure that every little detail of the biography is firmly planted into your memory. After it is etched deep within your psyche, let it work in your mind for a day or two. You may even wish to let it work in your subconscious for up to a week for better results. During this time of incubation, your subconscious builds up the details needed to construct this. After this time has elapsed and you return to work on your entity, you may find that your subconscious has partially, if not completely, finished the description of your entity's magical abilities. Then when you do any working on or with your entity, you will find that. Page 39. Magical abilities things manifest and work more smoothly than they would have otherwise. Even if you do not write a biography for your entity, it is important to at least think about your entity's magical abilities. Plan out the ways that your entity deals with things specific to its tasks. This will help you to firmly understand your entity and make working with it much easier. Lifespan. One thing that most people seem to ignore when creating entities is the duration of life that the entity shall have. Therefore, to avoid any unforeseen problems or issues that may arise due to your entity not having a defined term of life, you should consider the lifespan of the entity. The reasons to disperse an entity can be varied. The entity may have completed its task, or it may not be doing its task. You may feel that you can handle the task on your own and no longer need the entity. Whatever the reason, as long as you follow rough it, you are not dependent on the entity. By defining your entity's lifespan, you are taking responsibility for your actions. It also provides closure for you in regards to the entity and its task. Understanding the lifespan of the entity helps to put the things of the past into the past. It allows you to have a clear vision of the present and the future. In order to determine the lifespan of the entity, we should look at its purpose. What is the entity supposed to do? Was it created for a one-time event, or was it created to work with an ongoing issue? Do you want the entity to continue to live after that specific task was completed, because you know more of the same type of tasks will arise later in life? Would you rather have this entity's existence halt YTH the completion of its task, and if the same tasks happen later in life, build a better entity vising the lessons that you have learned from original experience? Do you want the entity to terminate by a specific point in TEMA regardless if the task has been completed or not? These. Page 40. Lifespan. All things that you may want to consider when thinking about the lifespan for your entity. Once you have figured out WHAT, the lifespan of your entity will be UMAYWANT to THINK of different TEMA references to use as your marker of TEMA. For example, you may wish to have the entity only active during the WAXING moon and terminate on the THIRD full moon after the entity's creation. You could have the entity's life cease on the Monday immediately after the entity's task has been completed. An even easier way to determine the entity's life is to directly add it to the statement of intent. An example of this could be, provide me YTH the best opportunity for financial security that is in alignment YTH my goals, dreams, and desires. After doing so your service to me will end and you shall exist no more. If the entity is to last a lifetime, you may wish to have the entity terminate its life when your life ceases. Even if your entity is to last forever, it is a good idea to solidify that in some form or fashion. This will make your entity have more definition to its existence and allow for you to work YTH it in a more meaningful manner. Another thing to consider, along YTH the lifespan, is the manner in which the entity will be dissolved, assuming, of course, that the entity will have a finite existence. This also adds to the physiological aspect of providing closure. Some people chose to destroy the entity's housing at the set TEMA of dissolution. Others like to BURY the housing. Others like to visualize the entity dissipating into the astral plane, leaving its housing an empty shell of what he used to be. Some do TTHROWNETHing associated to the entity into the garbage. Some pull out the essential energy that they've put into the entity, which came from themselves initially. They destroy the link between the entity and themselves by visualizing the entity's energy coming back into them. Lifespan 63. Most people find this easy since each person has their OWN unique energy signature. Calling that energy back to yourself is simply a matter of being attuned to it. You should, if you so choose, come up some form of dissolution for your entity when the time comes for it to cease. Most agree, when you terminate the life of an entity you must handle this personally, either rough absorption of energy or YTH in the statement of intent. Of course, this is not applicable for those entities YTH perpetual life. However, you may still wish to decide on some form of dissolution in case you, or anyone else that you allow to, wishes to have the entity cease existence. Usually people that have perpetual entities will put in a dissolution clause into the creation of the entity in case the entity, for whatever reason, does not act according to plan. This is a smart thing to consider if you do decide to create a perpetual entity. Page 41. Are programming your intent. Some say, and we agree, that symbols are the language of the deep mind. Dreams are an example of this deep mind language. Communicate ion. Humans react and relate to symbols more easily and rapidly than they do to the WRIT-10 or spoken word. This is because our subconscious communicates THROUGH, specialized form of symbolic language. Thus, using symbols allows us to communicate YTHROWN and others' deep subconscious minds more effectively than most other modes of communicate ion. Symbols can take the form of any medium that stands for or suggests something else. For example, the lion is often used to represent courage. Symbols can also be objects, sounds, colors, aromas, or actions representing something to the unconscious mind and having subjective cultural significance and the capacity to excite or objectify a response. There are many different types of symbols to choose from. The symbols that have been constructed from your subconscious will prove to be more powerful than any other symbols that you may choose to use. This is because such symbols speak directly to your subconscious, as they were formed and created there. For example, an image of a cat to one person may bring on thoughts and feelings of love and caring, while for another person it may bring thoughts of rejection and aggression. These thoughts and ideas were constructed from each person's subconscious rough the experiences that they have had cats. The first person may have only had great experiences cats that were cuddly and loving, whereas the other person. Page 42. Page 43. Are giving life to your entity. After you have finished with all of the details for your entity, it is time to bring it to life and send it on its way to manifest your desires. There are many ways to give life to your entity. We will outline a simple method and provide suggestions that you may want to expand upon. The basic entity creation sequence. 1. Cleansing and balancing. 2. Statement of magical intent. 3. Alignment of desire and charging of entity. 4. Closing, cleansing, and balancing. It is a good idea to physically clean the area before you work in it. The same is true with you. You may wish to take a bath or shower beforehand, as this will subconsciously show your dedication and sincerity to the working. Set up the room in which you will perform this working as you would for any other working. Music can be helpful to charging an object with a magical intent. The music helps to set the mood, while at the same time provides an intended distraction to help with the working. As long as the type of music is suited for the type of magical working, it will fill your ears with sound. This will help to allow the mind to focus on the task at hand. If no music is present, your mind may. Page 44. Giving life to your entity. Have to work harder not to be distracted and to focus on the task. Place all of the items related to the entity, housing object, Raj ramming symbol, shrine, etc., in front of you and individually cleanse each item in the form or fashion that you are comfortable with. Alternatively, you can wave the smoke of incense or smudge over the objects to cleanse them that way. This is entirely up to you. You should use a balancing, or banishing as some occultists refer to it as, tool that you are familiar and comfortable with and DT is best suited to your magical system. You may wish to use the opening of the watchtower, or something similar, at this point. If you don't know any balancing, banishing, retools, you can look in books, search online, etc. for some ideas. The most effective balancing rituals, like all others, are the ones that you personally write. Statement of Magica L intent. This is simply you stating to the forces that be your intent to create an entity to manifest your desires. A simple statement of intent for the magical working could be, it is my will and desire to create and give life to the entities NAME here, to go forth and the entity's task. As it is my will, so it is done. ALIGNMENT of desire and charging entity. This is where you energize and charge yourself in the area that you are working in your desire. This step usually includes controlled breathing, visualization, meditation, etc. If you do not have a favorite way of doing this, the middle pillar exercise, or something similar, would be appropriate. This is also where you will charge the entity, and any thing that is to be related to the entity, life. ANY giving life to your entity. 71 Right that you normally use to charge spells and or other magical workings can be used to charge an entity. Instruct the entity when, where, how, and for how long it will work. Instruct at how it will receive energy to live to it should to rn to its housing object, if one is used when it is not working, if you so desire it to, etc. Instruct it in how its existence will terminate. We have provided some suggestions for charging the entity below. 1 way to charge yourself. The essence of the entity is to gaze upon the PROGRAMMING symbol and visualize the task completed and feel the happiness KNOWING to TIT has been manifested correctly. WITHOUT any flaws or errors. Also visualize a color that represents your desire filling every part of your body. Do this for several minutes. While you do this, your brain sends off electromagnetic charges of WHAT it is that you desire. Your blood picks up this electromagnetic energy and distributes it to your body. Since all of your body has been charged WITH your desire, you may wish to use bodily items, such as blood, hair, urine, ejaculate, toe and fingernails, etc. to you so desire to literally infuse the housing object WITH your desire. Remember the suggestion for a cavity in the housing. This is where DT would come into play. By doing this, the object is charged with your desire, which allows it to attract the correct type of entity energy to complete and manifest your desires, likes attracting likes. Jews of biblical TE may held blood as a very sacred item, and understood DT blood contained the fiery magical life force of creation. They would sprinkle the blood of sacrificed animals on things that they wished to purify. Alchemists and other occultists believed that during the initial creation the entity should be fed blood of the creator. This blood was thought to carry the life force to the entity being created. Page 45. It has also been thought that by correctly manipulating sexual energy and joining semen and men's T-Ruel blood together, powerful magical results can be produced and an entity can be given life. Rabbi Judah Loew of Prague has been noted in Many texts to have fashioned a clay form into the shape of a man. Through powers given to him by God, he was able to breathe life into the clay figure. This clay creature was known as a golem. When Rabbi Loew created this golem, he incorporated the four elements, earth, through the use of clay for the body, fire. It has been noted that Rabbi baptized the golem by spilling blood onto the body of the golem, water. It is believed that Rabbi Loew ejaculated into a cavity present in the clay form, and air. It is believed that Rabbi Loew breathed into the nostrils of the golem. Rabbi Loew noted that because of the magical origins of his golem, it could not be injured by the four elements. To animate the housing object, must constantly try to find ways to build unions yth it. Some occultists suggest mixing ashes, air and fire, soil, earth, water. Well, you get the idea, to represent the four elements along yth your personal elements of blood, internal fire, urine, water, hair and or nails, earth, and breath, air. This mixture is to be added into the entity's housing object. NOW state the name of the entity. For example, INAMEU, entity's name, and from this day until time of dissolution, you shall be KNOWN by this name. UMAYWANT to vibrate the NAME of the entity while visualizing the essence of the entity, as it possesses the housing object. Breath is considered powerful and can have a large role in charging an object WITH the entity. This breath can be in the form of blowing, chanting, speaking, singing, etc. Biasing breath in the charging of the object, you play a role of a god by breathing life into the object. This act can have a significant psychological effect, and giving life to your entity 73 can aid in the relationship bonding between the entity and yourself. When your blood reaches your lungs, while you are charging yourself WITH the essence of the entity, your breath becomes charged YTH your desires. When you feel that your body and breath have been charged YTH is MUCH energy as they can take, slowly release your breath onto the housing object that you wish to charge. At the same time, you may visualize the color that represents your desire flowing from yourself into the entity's housing object, or into the astral plane if no housing object is being used for this entity, filling every bit of it WITH that color. Then say, it is Rough my will that I now call you into being. You are given life to perform entities tasks to the benefit of all the TMAY be involved harming none along your way. This last section, to the benefit. Harming none along your way, would obviously be reworded if the entity were to cause havoc for a person or group of people. Make sure you reword it to benefit and not HARMU and ANY others that you do not wish to be harmed. Pick up the PROGRAMMING symbol and say, with this symbol I am able to contact you WITHES and at any TEMA that I so desire, BUT, entity's name, WHEN. This symbol is no more, so shall your life and purpose be no more, for this is my will and so it is done. Release the entity and instruct to go forth and manifest your desires by saying, go in peace, entity's name, and begin your tasks, remembering to appear quickly to me WHEN called upon. If you have not completed your task by time of dissolution, then disperse and cease to exist nonetheless. Be on your way. The former WASJUST1 WAY to charge the entity and or PROGRAMMING symbol. Experiment YTH of RIE tie of materials to create a PROGRAMMING symbol. Using pens, markers, or crayons to draw it, or perhaps use a wood. Page 46. Burner to burn it into the housing. Many magi, as suggested earlier, use blood, if you are female, and if appropriate, you may want to take advantage of your men's T-Ruel blood as well. Draw it on parchment, wood, metal, cardboard, or even your body. Do not limit yourself in the materials you use. Get creative. YTH your activation. Draw a symbol on your body. YTH soap crayons and then take a bath. As the soap dissolves into the water off your body, the water receives DTP Raj ramming and activates the entity. Draw it on paper and feed it to a fire. Maybe draw it in the dirt and let the rain wash it away. These 3 examples make use of the elements earth, air, fire, water. Or, you can make cookies in the form of the P Raj ramming symbol or frost a cake. YTH your symbol on it and eat it. If you practice sex magic, use body paints to draw the symbol. The symbol will be charged. WITH the sexual energies and the entity activated when the symbol is either sweated off. WHEN you achieve orgasm, or whatever you decide. When charging an object, it is best to do so with great respect and care for the entity, and while in the proper mindset. The entity should be treated as you would treat yourself, as the entity will treat you in the same manner as it is treated. It is foolish to make enemies needlessly. This is just is T-Ru WHEN working WITH entities as it is when working YTHHUMAN beings. The attention shown during the creation process muse to be sincere. Closing, this is where you would make a statement noting the magical working is over and the entity has been born and is working on your desire. Typically, most occultists do some form of reversal of the balancing, banishing, rite performed at the beginning of the magical working. The closing by watchtower, or something similar, could be performed at this time. Giving life to your entity. 75. Think of all the different ways you can incorporate all of the senses into your work so that it encompasses your entire self. Craft your entity carefully and thoughtfully. What you put into something is WHAT you get out of it. Take your team a WITH the creation, and in doing so you will ensure a quality entity YTH quality tasks that are accomplished as you see fit. Page 47. Contacting your entity. Once the entity has possessed the housing object, you are able to work YTH the entity in the manner desired. The manner in which you contact your entity can take MANY forms, be it invocation, evocation, summoning, petitions, prayers, etc. These acts confirm and strengthen the union between the entity and you. Ultimately, the method used to call upon your entity is up to you. One of the most common forms of working WITH entities is rough. The magical technique KNOWN is evocation. Evocation is calling something forth to work WITH it, or to have it work for you. Once the basics of evocation are mastered, you can accomplish great things with relative ease. There are some people and books that warn against conjuring and the evocation of spirits. Most of these warnings are products of superstition, fear of the UNKNOWN, and ignorance. Usually these same people warn against using talking boards, holding seances, looking in a mirror over your shoulder in the dark, etc. For fear of contacting things from the other side. These types of fears tend to be manifestations of the people's OWN fear of death and dying, and what may be waiting for them on the other side. MANY people are quick to believe stories of a seance gone wrong, or a talking board bursting into flames, because they hold these same ignorant fears of death and the life hereafter. Other warnings only serve to keep people new to the subject of magic from veering off into areas of advanced magic before they have mastered the basics. Some of these warnings are very dire and even threaten life if ever used. It is our opinion, however, if you have read this far into page 48. Contacting your entity. This book, you either do not believe the superstitious and ignorant warnings, you have advanced far enough to learn what is in this book, you are a very curious person, you don't give a damn about what other people think, or all of the above. If so, you have gained our respect. When you need help from your entity, or wish to work with it, the following is a very easy and effective way to evoke your entity. When you have the thing that you need the entity's help with in front of you, or have an image of it in your mind, call the entity to you using mental imagery. Visualize your entity entering the thing that you need help with. See your entity grow through subject like air filling a child's balloon. Picture the entity expanding throughout the subject until its energy surrounds the subject. Continue to hold this visualization until you have received the feeling that all that can be done has been done. Then send a caring and respectful thought to the entity thanking it for its work. Then visualize the entity returning to its place of resting. For example, you may be stuck in a traffic jam. You would visualize the entire traffic jam in your mind. Then you would visualize your traffic jam entity going into the core of the traffic jam. You would then visualize the entity growing until it has encompassed the entire traffic problem. You would visualize the entity doing whatever work may be necessary to return the traffic to a normal state and moving without restriction. After you feel that all that can be done has been done, mentally thank your entity and let it know that it may return to whatever it was doing prior to you calling upon it. Amanda uses either the programming symbol or a scent that calls the entity to her. David typically uses the programming symbol or visualizes the entity manifesting before him. Taylor uses the paintings he's made to represent the entity in question. Contacting your entity 79. Some use what is known as a power word. A power word is a word that uses the vibrations of sound to energize and manipulate what occurs around you. Such a word can also be used to create or call entities once they are created. The word, when uttered, should call to mind the emotion and the visualization of the entity. Be sure that your visualization is as detailed as possible, as you are only relying on your own voice to trigger the visualization of the entity. The entity and the word should be as one, and when you say the word, you should feel power arise that calls forth the entity to do what you wish it to do. Vocalize the word, which is to say you mentally say the word to yourself, over and over again, until you build the energy up and the word pours forth from your mouth, thus evoking the entity. There are many other ways to evoke and work with your entity. A great number of books on the subject of evocation have been written. Some of them include other simple ways to evoke things, and most of them include the same steps that were suggested earlier in this book, in the section explaining how you can give life to your entity. Instead of giving life to the entity, however, you would evoke the entity and work with it. We do not wish to replicate the work of others, so if you are interested in learning more about this subject, we suggest that you seek out books on the topic of evocation and talk with people that have a subject. To gain rapport with the entity, you could do daily meditations with your entity. To do this, sit in a comfortable area where you are able to view the entity's housing object, programming symbol, or both. Gaze at either of the entity objects while allowing your focus to blur a little. Relax as much as you can, and try to remove any miscellaneous thoughts that you may have at the time. You may begin to receive mental pictures or images. These images are the way that your entity communicates with your subconscious. Page 49. Contacting your entity during these times. Project respect and caring images to your entity. When you are done, remember to thank your entity for the opportunity of working with it. There may be times where you find yourself in a situation where you specifically need to do something involving your entity's realm of influence. You may wish to invoke, calling the entity inside of you. This is the opposite of evocation, your entity to aid you in your actions. Then, after invoking your entity, it acts rough you, and all of your actions, from the T point onwards, should be those of the entity, until you choose to end the invocation. To make personal invocation easier between your entity and yourself, you should take every opportunity to study and understand the realm of influence of the entity. This you will form a stronger bond with your entity, and rough the magical formulation of likes attract likes. Your workings with the entity will become easier and more productive, and you will notice a higher success rate of your magical working with your entity. The more sincere the contact is, the quicker you may begin to see the entity's housing object animate. After some time, it will become progressively easier to see the object come to action with little effort. With even more work, however, you may even begin to see your entity, in some form or fashion, away from the object in which it resides. This usually only happens when you have developed great psychic abilities. You may even begin to hear sounds from your entity. When the entity reaches a higher state of life, you may even begin to feel the touch of the entity. Most of the time, your entity's touch will feel like spider webs. Then it may begin to feel like regular physical contact, a solid object. People have noted that the times between being awake and sleeping are the most common times of seeing, hearing, or feeling their entities. Preparation Guide by NOW. You have developed a solid background on the creation of entities. By mixing and matching magical practices from your OWN magical system, you will soon progress to working WITH advanced entity creation aspects. By using the worksheet that follows and referring to the information in this book, you have everything you need to create any entity you desire, from the simplest to the most complex. Basic outline of entity creation. Define your goals. Understand the purpose of your entity. Create a name for your entity. Define its appearance. Choose its housing object. Determine its source of energy. Define its magical abilities. Determine the lifespan for your entity. Decide the methods of dissolution. If appropriate, create your entity. SP Raj ramming symbol. Give life to your entity. Allow the entity to perform its task. Perform the dissolution of your entity if appropriate. Of course, some cases will require that these actions be performed in a slightly different arrangement. Other cases will require only a handful of these steps. It is up to you to decide what will be the most appropriate for your situation. Page 50. Preparation Guide. Use your instincts and intuition whenever you take on the task of creating magical entities. If there is ever a made that some instruction or suggestion doesn't sit right, go YTHWHAT your heart says to do, because more often than not, it will be what is right for you. If you feel that you are not sure of something, or that you may need to read a section again, go back and read that section again. Take your time so that you can understand the theories and ideas that are presented. There is no rush for you to get rough this material as quickly as possible. The more thoroughly that you understand this material and the ideas presented in this book, the more rapidly your magical workings will manifest your desires. The worksheet in the next section is provided so that you may have a model to use WHENT to organize your thoughts. It is basically self-explanatory and relatively uncomplicated. In Appendix A you will find an example of HOWAMANDA used the worksheet to formulate an inspiration entity. You do not have to use the worksheet provided, but you may find it helpful to use some form of record-keeping system. That you do not have to rely on your memory when trying to create your entity. It is important to record your experiences. You will then have a record that shows you where you succeeded or failed when you created an entity and set it to its task. By recording your experiences, you can DRAW on those experiences to show other people what you have accomplished, as well as keeping yourself up to date on whatever you are working on. When recording your experiences, ask yourself the following questions. What variables of reality did I factor into the creation and usage of the entity? What did I not factor in, and HOW can I do so next time? What method of creation did I feel was most effective for the usage of entities, e.g., painting, power words, sculpting, etc.? What was the preparation guide 83 need I made the entity for, and did the entity fulfill the need? How can I improve on my entity? There are many more questions you can ask yourself, but these will give you a starting point. Be thorough in recording your workings the entity. By doing this, it will help make clear what it is you've done. It will also help you when you are looking back on past workings so that you can more easily draw upon them for workings in the future. Page 51. Page 52. Page 53. After you have mastered the basics of entity creation, you may wish to experiment with adaptations to further your magical workings. Entity adaptations help provide you with more versatility and flexibility in your workings. Some people like to think of entity adaptations as advanced entity creation. Whatever kind of fancy title that you would like to place on it, entity adaptations can prove very beneficial to the success of your magical workings. There are entities that are known as general purpose or general service entities. These entities are fashioned with only a general realm of influence. The advantage of creating a general service entity is to have an entity on call that is able to work on any type of issue within a set field, say for example health. Every time you may have a health issue, you could call upon your health entity to help you out, sort of like a general practitioner doctor. The more that you use your health entity, the more power it receives. That power increases its ability to help you. Another example could be an entity of transportation. You could call upon this type of entity to help you get the best parking places in an emergency, help ease up traffic jams, have the bus run on time, help to fix a problem with your bike, etc. If you want to focus the entity to a specific task, your general entity can become specialized so that, for instance, the health entity becomes a dentist entity. Some people have found that by telling other people about their entity and showing how to use it when they need it, their entities have grown very powerful and have improved their magical abilities. Something that helps boost the power of your general service entity is to attribute to the entity any. Page 54. Entity adaptation success that falls in its general realm of influence, even if the entity was not called on. This will serve to strengthen your belief in its power, which will lead to more successes in its workings. There are entities that you can create that either replicate themselves, produce slave entities, or both if certain conditions are met or not met. These type of entities are viral entities, as Phil Hine refers to them in his book Condensed Chaos. In their most simplistic of forms, these entities replicate in the manner of viruses to accomplish a set goal. If designed to do so, your entity could continue to replicate itself until its task has been completed. This type of entity works great in destroying illnesses and disease. Have you ever wished that you had just a bit more magical energy during a working? Have you ever wished that you could tap into an energy reserve to help out with a healing? Well, now you can, if you create an energy storehouse entity, ESH. An ESH's sole purpose is to collect, store, and distribute energy on demand. This type of entity is created to store energy that is given to it at times when you feel full of energy or power, but have nothing to do with it. It then collects this energy and stores it, waiting for you to call upon it to deliver the energy back you. Even if you feed negative energy to it after you have been in an argument, your ESH could have been instructed, during creation, to remove all emotion from the energy and to store only the pure, raw energy for your use. You can adapt an ESH to collect neutral forms of energy like the light from a lamp being left on when it is not needed, to add to your energy to increase the power available to you. If you do this, it may be a good idea to be very specific as to what type of energy it collects, and how it collects it. There have been some ill-prepared magi that have accidentally created energy, vampires that would collect any type of energy they can, even from people. Entity adaptations 91. You can also use this sort of entity to send energy to other people. If, for example, a friend of yours was duty in an accident, you cannot be there for them and you do not have the time or ability to do a full magical ritual for them. You could, however, send your ESH to deliver energy to them. It sure one-ups the typical "I'll light a candle for you" cliché spewed by so many. An alternative energy entity was touched on earlier in the book, but it deserves to be expanded upon. Creating and maintaining an entity can be hard work at times, depending on how you set things up. Some entities require large amounts of energy that you may not be able or have the time to give. In these instances, you may want to look into using alternative forms of energy management. An example of this type of entity could be an entity used by a salesperson. This person could create an entity that would stimulate sales. For whatever reason, our salesperson does not have the time to feed the entity, so the salesperson instructs the entity to feed off of the energy of any and every sale ever made in every location in the city in which the salesperson lived. This way the salesperson has supplied the entity with a reliable supply of energy. Also, by feeding the entity, sales, energy, it will improve the entity's working because it directly relates to the entity's task, stimulate more sales for the salesperson. If you think about it long enough, you can probably come up with hundreds of ideas of alternatively feeding your entity. Remember to make it as closely related to the entity's task as possible for a better chance success. If you have a desire to work with a commonly known spirit, deity, or entity, you can create a personal entity to act as a link with it by developing a name, image, and symbol based on the characteristics of the inspirational subject. You can even decide upon a specific realm of influence based on the general realm of influence of the original spirit or deity. By doing this, you are personalizing a link YTH the original subject through. Page 55. Entity adaptations, the creation of a personal entity. From that point on, you can call upon the spirit or deity through the name and symbol that you have designated to elicit a direct response from the desired entity. It is important to remember that you are working with an entity that serves as a link to the spirit or deity and not the spirit or deity itself. After continuous workings, you can, if you so desire, have the entity you created evolve away from the original spirit or deity to become its OWN independent entity. Then when you work with your entity, you will be working YTH your entity alone, though it will have gained knowledge and experience through the old link YTH the spirit or deity. The same idea can be used to make an entity based on the aspects of a living or dead person. By taking the person's name and personal attributes, a very powerful and viable entity can be formed. This new entity will be linked to both the person and to you, in a similar fashion to an entity providing a link to a deity or spirit. This type of entity, when linked to a living person, can have great and powerful effects upon them. With such a link, an entity can be very useful for works of healing and protection directed at the person to whom it is linked. Of course, you can also use this sort of entity to inflict dire things upon a person, should you so desire. Epilogue: the material presented in this book will help you along your path of magical progression. This information provides you WITH the mechanics of successful entity creation, along WITH the tools to develop your OWN system of entity creation. WHATU create depends entirely on HOWMUCH effort to TYO you would like to PUT forth. Entity creation isn't for everybody. People wishing to work WITH spirits may not feel comfortable WITH creating their OWN entities or spirits. However, if you are interested in taking YOUR magic to the next level, then magical entity creation MAYBJUST the THing for you. Don't take our word for it, try it out for yourself. While it is good to take the things you do seriously, it is important to remember that entity creation is fun. The fear of making mistakes should not restrict you to being a rigid drone. We've made our share of mistakes and we are still here. As long as you learn from any mistakes that may occur, there is no reason you should view magical entity creation, or any magical working, for the matter, as any other fun and educational experience. We hope that this book has inspired you to take the theories of magical entity creation and incorporate them into your magical system. If not, we at least hope that you will take this information and view your magic in a different manner. If you have enjoyed this book and have an internet connection, we would greatly appreciate it if you let other people know about it by leaving a favorable review at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. Even if. Page 56. Epilogue: don't have an internet connection, we would appreciate any efforts made in letting other people know about this book. A great way would be to ask your local library, local bookseller, or both, if they carry this book. If they say they don't, politely request that they do. If you aren't satisfied with this book, neither are we. Let us know how we can improve it. You may send us mail in care of the publisher, the address is listed at the front of this book, or you can send us an email, the addresses are listed below. May all of your magical workings be strong and full of life. May all of your magical entity creations bring you much happiness. You may contact us at the following email addresses. David can be reached at dcunningham@egregorapublishing.com. Taylor can be reached at tellwood@egregorapublishing.com.